knocked away. Marshall, Clark to the rim. An 11-0 Iowa run. As one of the arena cameramen got hit there after the bucket, and the officials stopped play.
Right here, this is Caitlin Clark all on her own, jumping out to double team. She sensed that she could get the steals, that she could create some havoc, and she did, and got the layup the other way. Let's go.
Gabby Marshall approves.
I drive a very nice car. It's very fast, very shiny. But sadly, it's not built for the famous Aussie lifestyle. And I love the famous Aussie lifestyle. I love the fashion. I love the food. But mainly, I like to drive here. So this is my second car. Designed for my second home, Australia. Bike rack, rod holders, roof racks, thong storage, built-in pie oven, freshwater shower. Oh, hey Barrow. Valtteri is having a little shower too. Budgie Smuggler drying system. BRS, buck reduction system. Mullet aeration technology.
Check this out. That's a bird.
I'm going to be busy racing my first car, so I put this baby on Uber Carshare. You can rent it for free, because I am very rich already. Australia's home of second cars. Valtteri will miss you.
I refuse to walk away from the fight.
Okay. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston, now McLaren, all have a speed on the straights. Our shot is battling in the turns. We need to build our car for combat.
How am I supposed to make that safe?
Who said anything about safe?
Make a big noise playing in the street. Gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace. Kicking your can all over the place. Singing, we
wow, special delivery from Audrey. Here you go, a checkered flag. How about that? This moment for the Larson family. Boy, let's talk about this win for you guys. How was this to have a non-pressure packed day for you?
Yeah, no, it's really, it's the first time in my playoff career I've not been like close to the cut line, so it was good to kind of have a little bit stress-free of a weekend, and I think the first time I've been here without crashing, maybe besides the other time we won. So good weekend. Thanks to HendrickCars.com, Hendrick Automotive Group. Obviously we're here at Hendrick's home and got so many of the people there, people here from there. So gonna be fun to celebrate with them. Thanks to Cliff Daniels, Chevrolet, GM too. It's known that I don't really use the sim much, and I was in the sim this week. So huge thank you to you guys there. It really helped me get into a rhythm, I think, early on, and help us kind of fine-tune our car too. So hats off to everybody there, and Ginger Ramen Bar, Prime. It's awesome having Audrey here. We've got an 8:40 p.m. flight. I think we're gonna miss that probably, but we'll catch Owen and Caitlin and Audrey and Cabo. We're going to Cabo this week, and hopefully make it there. So
I was gonna ask you, you celebrated with Owen because you guys had a boys' weekend. Did Audrey see that and say, hey, when's my turn, Dad?
Actually, well, yeah. So, I mean, it's great to have Audrey here, but the reason why we're here is Owen was off racing this week in Oklahoma with Caitlin and Cooper, and Audrey had a baseball game yesterday, so we had to stay here for that. But it's always fun getting to hang out with your kids and getting to have these special moments. So I know she was jealous to see Owen at Bristol, and glad to have this moment with her.
Kyle Larson wraps up the round of 12 with a big win here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway at the Roval, Dave Burns.
Driver, start your
Hello and welcome to Drafting Circuits. My name is Richard Uden, and joining me in the studio for the next hour or so is Levi. How are you doing, Lee?
Hey, bud. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Ample shoes this evening and probably for the next couple of weeks. He's off chasing the Chicken Big Mac. If any of you follow him on social media, he's oh yeah, he's into his Chicken Big Macs and mixing them with normal Big Macs. I mean, that's
risky. It's risky.
If a hole opens in the town continuum here, it's because he's mixed a Big Mac and a Chicken Big Mac. So you've been warned.
I'm waiting for him to figure out the fish fillet.
Oh my god! Oh my god! There we go.
Yeah, once he hits that level, we will never see him again. He'll be on the start.
Talking of people we don't see very often on this show, I'd like to reach out and thank our sponsors. The first of being Louise Torres Multimedia. Louise, come back. As Frank says, Frank's not here. If it's Frank that you don't like, you should have come on tonight. It's okay. We won't judge you. But please come back, Louise. We miss you. Your photos are great. You know, if anybody's over there on the West Coast looking for wedding photographers, event photographers, anything, check out Louise's site. It's brilliant. The guy is so talented, and we miss having you on here, but you're busy, Louise, and that's the important thing. Keep yourself busy. It's a good thing. Uber Carshare Australia, Valtteri Bottas. If you're listening to us from Australia and you need an Uber, Valtteri's your guy. What else have we got coming up? Sorry, I'm reading from a list here. Frank's got it all memorized. Netflix Senna documentary coming out later this year. That's going to be a must-watch. Everybody knows the story. Everybody knows the person, and hopefully it'll increase the exposure to arguably one of the most talented sportsmen of all time and one of the most passionate and elusive characters in all of sport. He was an enigma, and the opportunity for more people to see Ayrton's story, the better. And who we got here? Sorry. Hi, Larson. Hats off to everybody after a Roval win. Not quite sure what that is, but anyway, let's move on. So,
that was a video clip leading us into the show tonight. So
okay, there we go. Cool.
Yeah. So it was this win. It was this.
There you go. Thank you. There's our producer who keeps an eye on every week, Keith. Thank you for keeping me in check there. Greatly appreciated.
Who let the rookies in the house tonight?
I know.
Terrible. Wow.
A bit of a clue there. If nobody know who won at the Roval last weekend, it was Kyle Larson. But we'll come to that later. We're going to mix it up a little bit, Lee. I think we need to start with NHRA this week. And this was the second to last round in their championship season, I believe.
So left on the bucket list of races we got left, we got Vegas coming up on Halloween weekend. And then once that is done, we go into Pomona for the final race of the season. And that'll be 2024 in the books. So, we got 2 left, getting down to the wire. So it was a good weekend in Texas. It's always a good weekend in Texas. If we're racing in Texas, I don't care if it's, wingless midgets all the way up to, the NHRA guys. If we're racing in Texas, it's going to be a good weekend. So Justin Ashley won in dragster, so he keeps his pretty much reign. He keeps his top seed with 2 races left. Our favorite of the show, Matt Hagan, he pulled in a win this weekend at Wally, puts him in 3rd for the standings. Austin Prock is leading for John Force Racing, so that is good. Other news out of the Force camp, the driver who was filling in for John Force, his name is Fast Jack Beckman. Sunday, he pulled out of the race because of vertigo or vertigo-related symptoms. So, safety first with the Force team. Really under the microscope, especially at Force Racing. Anybody that's it's a tough season. I mean, it's short. There's not a whole heck of a lot of races. It's not like NASCAR by any means, but these guys, there's a lot of traveling. And they're going going 300 and something miles an hour in a couple seconds is pretty taxing on the body. So they're really Force Racing's, any symptoms, you're not feeling right, just not worth it. So pulled them out. Good call for them. Jed Coughlin Jr., he won in Pro Stock, and then we get the Pro Stock motorcycle, and it's been the same record all year long. Gage Harana pulls out another one. Like, this little kid's unstoppable. He is in 34 starts, so in 34 professional races that he has started NHRA on the Pro Series, he's won 20.
It's not bad.
So that I mean,
you'd take it, wouldn't you?
That's pretty good right there. So that's 2 years worth of racing. He's won while he's 20 out of the 34. So
you need a bigger house to collect all those.
I know. Like, where do you keep them all on the shelf? Like, he could be like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and start selling them on eBay, which he did really good at, by the way. He made a couple million for charity. So
there you go.
Like you said, next week we are not next week, but the week after for Halloween, we are off to Vegas.
Very nice.
And then 2 weeks later, it's the final at Pomona, and we'll
Yeah.
call that one in.
I mean,
Call that one in the books.
I hate to admit I should follow it more closely, but I was looking at some of the results over the weekend, and I must admit, putting my Toyota hat on, we look pretty locked in top fuel.
Yeah,
I think we got the top 6, I think.
Yep.
So we'll take that. I wish we were like that in the Cup Series, but hey,
yeah.
we put a load of effort into that drag racing program, the NHRA program in Top Fuel and Funny Car, and Funny Car, I think we've still got a chance at the championship, but we'll have to probably run the tables at the last 2 races and wait for some slip ups from some of our competitors there. But we've got a couple of the guys that run the NHRA program for us. One of them, name may be familiar to some of the NASCAR fans. Slugger Labby used to be crew chief for Austin Dillon, and Paul Menard, and guys like that. Slugger runs our program. And he's enthusiastic about that as he is Cup racing. And if you ever spend any time with Slugger, he's an infectious character. And
he is.
Hopefully we'll come out and bring out a at least one championship for him this year. So that'll be a great achievement for them.
Yeah. And like I said, when I went to the NHRA race in New Hampshire last year in 2023, the event that got rained out. The footprint for Toyota at that event, competitors. There was Toyota trucks everywhere. They had interactive, and that's across the board for Toyota Motorsports. I think that is the case. You go to a NASCAR event, Toyota trailers outpace, Ford and Chevy probably 3 to 4 to 1 at least. Toyota's doing a really good job with their motorsports program there. And it's good to see them in NHRA as well.
Yeah, we certainly, we invest heavily in it, not just in North America, but globally. And, from a, if you like, a political standpoint, from a brand such as Toyota coming to North America to really gain that exposure and that foothold in the market, and open up, especially in the Cup racing. There's still the odd cynic out there, but we do we do support the series, we do support the industry, and we've got new president coming on board. Dave Wilson, our current president, is retiring at the end of the year after 35 years with Toyota.
Wow.
Started off as an engine tuner back in the day and has worked his way up. So, it'll be new leader of the ship, new captain of the ship. But our commitment to the sport is, unwavering. That's a good, as Frank likes to say, a good segue. I always thought that was some weird little unstable contraption that you ride around on 2 wheels and run people over in Vegas on. But anyway,
and you chase kids down in the mall on one of them.
Oh yeah, Mall Cop. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We'll save that for the B movie podcast.
Next week.
Yes. So a nice segue of Toyota's motorsport involvement. This last week, Toyota announced that they're partnering with Haas F1, entering a technical partnership, not a engine supply program. This will be a resource sharing program with a reasonably intensive financial commitment from Toyota globally. We see the Formula One program as something we still want to be involved with, even though maybe not as an engine supplier at the moment. There's certainly no commitment to an engine program, but if we do want to have if Toyota does look to re-enter, then certainly we want to be involved in the sport and have a seat at the table to help shape those future regulations. Obviously, for 2026 is the new series of regulations coming online, and typically Formula One regulations stay stable for 4 to 5 years. So, I'm sure that the guys in Japan and in Europe are looking at this and thinking, well, if we can, work with Haas for the next 4 or 5 years until the next regulation changes come along, and then see where we are at that point. It's great for Haas. They get some more backing. They get access to the fantastic Toyota engineers. Uh, the Toyota North America has no involvement in the Formula One program, I must add. But the resources in Europe at the old Toyota Formula One factory in Cologne in Germany are state of the art even still. I mean, maybe that was one of the issues they had in the early 2000s when they entered. They spent so much money on that facility in Cologne, and a lot of Formula One teams still rent it and still use some of the facilities there. Now, Ferrari have used their wind tunnel there when Ferrari's wind tunnel was being redeveloped. I know when I worked at Williams, we would send the gearbox dyno that Toyota had was state of the art, and we only really use it twice a year, so it wasn't worth us developing our own when there was one relatively on the doorstep. So it's a fantastic facility. There are the WEC programs being run out of there. The very, very successful WEC programs been running out of there for a number of years. And excuse me, the opportunity for Haas F1 to get their hands on some of those tools, and we share our software tools, our simulation tools, some of our driver in the loop simulators. Really, really working together with a good, a good sound team like Haas is a fantastic opportunity. And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over the next few years. The first time we'll see the Toyota branding and the Gazoo Racing branding will be on the Haas car this weekend, which is perfect timing, really. The Haas obviously is going to get a lot of exposure in Austin at Circuit of the Americas. And fantastic opportunity. But we've had a couple of week break since Singapore. And they're jumping to get back at it. Obviously, no Daniel Ricciardo this week, which is a bit of a shame because he's really popular in the US. Mainly post Drive to Survive, but also his personality. He loves NASCAR. I think a couple of years ago he did a few laps of Coda in an old Dale Earnhardt car that Zach Brown owned, and he's always had that sort of personality, which I think adheres himself to the Austin fan base. So it's a shame that Daniel won't be there, but Liam Lawson will be in the car this week, and an opportunity for him to, between now and the end of the season, in a way to pitch himself for the second seat at Red Bull. There's still talk coming out of Red Bull that they need two drivers scoring points consistently to
be competitive
in the Constructors' Championship. So, Lee, what are your thoughts on this weekend's race? Do you have anybody you're going to be keeping your eye
on? Daniel Ricciardo was one of them, but now that he's not coming, I'm like, well. So, Lewis Hamilton, I think I'm going to watch him this weekend. The craziness has started in Austin. I will tell you that the fans are going there. I see it through my job on the out away from podcasting. Believe it or not, because this does not pay me as much as I wish it would, which is higher than zero. So my the fans are heading to Austin, and it's going to be a good weekend. And the fan base here in the U.S. is finally is really starting to get the grasp of the F1 stuff. And I think COTA is a great racetrack to showcase the F1 talents and the drivers there. So Lewis Hamilton's gonna be my guy for the weekend. Hopefully, every time I put a prediction out, hopefully guy does the best or gal does the best, and I've never seen it work out.
There you go. No, you're right. COTA's one of these. I think it's one of the better, what we call the Tilke domes. The Herman Tilke design tracks. The FAA seems to have an exclusive contract with him to design circuits, and certainly I think that he's designed. 3 or 4 really good overtaking opportunity out there. Certainly test the driver, test the car. You know, there's every type of corner, if you like, on the track, and some of them have been inspired by others around the world. You know, you've got the fast flowing S's at the end of the first sector, which is reminiscent of the Silverstone Maggots Beckett's complex, and you've got the multiple apex right-hander towards the end of the lap, which is reminiscent of the famous or infamous turn 8 at Istanbul Park in Turkey, although a right-hander rather than a left-hander. There's the tower, which is a unique feature up at the, so you can watch the race from 300 odd feet up in the air if you were so inclined. And they normally also put on some great events away from the track. There's obviously some pretty big concerts Saturday night after qualifying and the like. So they really do a great job getting everybody set up there and making it a weekend event, because unlike some racing series, track time at a Formula One weekend is limited. It's not like a club racing event where you've got, there's never, a club racing, event. You can go 15 minutes and there's always a new class on the track or a new race or whatever it may be. And Formula One, you can get hours with nothing going on. So they've really embraced that. They've come up with some great initiatives there, and it's a fantastic weekend, and really looking forward to seeing that coming up, and seeing how Red Bull respond to McLaren's performance over the last few weeks, or the last few races. Sorry, we saw the Christian Horner turning around and say that McLaren were taking the piss with some of their pace that they were showing in Singapore, and I mean, it's not like Red Bull never did that to anybody in their dominant era, is it? But people have short memories with all that, I think. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, a lot of these times, these are pretty quick fixes, or they're the modifications and the upgrades that we see on these cars are pretty quick. And of course, now one of the big differences for Red Bull is they don't have their design guru in house in Adrian Newey. He's he's on gardening leave or a sabbatical, whatever you want to call it, before starting at Aston Martin next year. And, that now gives an opportunity for the other aerodynamicists and other designers and other mechanical engineers within the Red Bull program to step up and fill those ample boots and see if they can close that gap, because McLaren have been pretty damn impressive these last few races. And even Ferrari been knocking on the door as well. There's almost been demoting Max, especially, down to like 4th or 5th place. And, Checo, who we talked about a little bit earlier there, he's been down at sort of 7th and 8th and 9th, which is, I think McLaren now have a lead in the Constructors' Championship as well, which is going to take some overhauling by Red Bull, especially. And it also, I think, shows the disparity between the two drivers at Red Bull in the fact that despite not leading the Constructors' Championship, Max is still well ahead
by miles
in the Drivers' Championship. So I think that could Lando win the Drivers' Championship? Ugh.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough, isn't it, Lee? What do you think?
Yep. I don't know, how many races do we got left in the season? 3?
I think we've got 6 races, and then we've got a couple of sprint races thrown in there as well, which obviously you can gain it to 10 points in those.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it'll happen this weekend. I would suspect. I mean, if he has a good, if he podiums this weekend, that's really going to put him in a great position for the next, I would say, probably 2 races coming up. For him to really make a good hard charge at it. But I don't. Yeah, I don't. He's got a podium this weekend, I think, to put that numerically into play by the end of the season. I mean, he's close.
Yeah. So we have 6 remaining races. 3 of them have sprint weekends. So the Austin this weekend, Sao Paulo, and Qatar. all have sprint races. So if Max can get a couple of good results there this weekend, as you say, if he can be pushing up around the podium, even if Lando wins out, I don't know what the numbers would have to be to for where Max would have to finish in each race to maintain or retain his championship. But it's been 7 races now since Max has stood on the top step of the podium. So there's it's going to start, pressure's going to start creeping into him in there. So actually, that's one more than that, isn't it? It's 8 races since he won the race, and that was in Spain, in Barcelona. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on there. He's got to, it must be a new sensation in a way for Max to be fighting to, a 3rd place is a good finish.
Yeah. Yep. And it kind of correlates around Checo saying, that, Red Bull's kind of saying Checo's going to remain in the car for at least to the end of the season. The timing just seems like it's a comfort thing. Like I don't see. I mean, obviously Checo, I think, is riding a lazy boy to the end of the season because he knows he's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. And I think that might hurt Max. That might have hurt Max, knowing that Checo is he's there to collect a paycheck. He's not there to support Max. And maybe in the back of Max's mind, he knows that he doesn't have that Checo or that that security blanket in Checo.
Yeah, well,
Checo was a great security blanket, but he was still a security blanket. And Checo's not.
It is. It's always. It's one of those things, isn't it? You've got your. Especially in a team sport like this, where your teammate may well not be on par in terms of raw pace, but he has the ability to disrupt the opposition. And do you short pit somebody to and then somebody the other team's got to cover him and all that sort of stuff. It gives, especially the strategists at the likes of McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, the unknown. It gives them puts a bit of doubt in their mind. So they're obviously playing that sort of it's a lot easier for them to play the game with 2 drivers than it is 1. So with just Max up there, they don't have an opportunity to do that. They have to react to the slowest, the number 2 car of the cars that are better than them. They can't afford to hang it out there and see if they can beat the lead guy. They've got to make sure they beat the second guy. So that puts Max on a back foot from the start, which is, it makes it difficult. So I'm just looking at the numbers here, actually. So Max is 52 points ahead in the championship. And there is 7 points between first and second with 6 races to go. So that would leave Lando 10 short if he won every race and Max finished second.
Max came second.
And there's only 1 point differential in the sprint races. So that would only be another 3. So if Lando ran the boards from here, won every sprint race, won every main race, and Max finished second in every race and every sprint race, then I think Max would win the championship by 7 points.
Yep.
Which, when you consider that he won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the first 10 races, it's hard to believe that we're talking about him, stumbling over the line and finishing the, and just like scraping together enough points to, win the Formula One World Championship. Man, it almost sounds like the Electoral College from people trying to scrape together enough votes from random little states.
Yeah, and now we're waiting on, we're waiting on, no offense to Hawaii, I love Hawaii, but now we're waiting on Hawaii. Like,
Yeah.
the last state to pass their vote.
Oh boy. So yeah, it's how times have changed really. Obviously there has been a lot of turmoil within the Red Bull camp this
Yeah,
year.
this year.
The start of the year didn't start off particularly well with a lot of personal allegations against Christian Horner, especially.
Yeah.
That what appears to be a power struggle between Christian Horner on one side and Helmut Marko and Josh Verstappen on the other side, and it's all very messy. The Formula One paddock was often described as the Piranha Club, and I think what you see going on at Red Bull this year is very apt. And maybe them not winning would show that, hey, you don't do this. You don't air your dirty laundry in public. And Jos, if you got a problem with what's going on, deal with it. Don't put it in the public eye. Your son is a fantastic driver. But he's not indispensable to the team. And I think if Max doesn't win the championship this year, I think a lot of that blame will lie at the door of Helmut Marko and Jos Verstappen.
Yep.
More so than at Christian Horner's door. Now, if the allegations are true and Christian did what he did, then it's a pretty shitty thing to do, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
But that's life, that people, unfortunately, do these things on an all too regular basis. But the deliberate and pointed attacks to try and destabilize the team and create this power shift, I think, was totally self-inflicted. And almost it would, you don't deserve to win a championship if that's how you're going to try and get what you want, right? If Jos wanted a better contract for Max, then you negotiate it like a grown-up. You don't do that. And if Red Bull don't want to pay you what you think you deserve, then thankfully we live in a free world and you can go and negotiate with Mercedes or Ferrari or McLaren or whoever. So don't, and what frustrates me about this is within the Red Bull organization, there are 1,000, 1,500 engineers and technicians and every spectrum of the sport working their asses off every week, working some pretty antisocial hours. Their families are suffering. And you get this arrogant play by, a certain axis within the senior management. And these guys are now suffering. Within a Formula One team, the majority of members of staff will get a bonus at the end of the year based on their championship results. And typically that goes on the Constructors' Championship rather than the Drivers' Championship.
Right.
And I think it's a reasonably fair assumption to make that Red Bull will not win the Drivers' Championship or Constructors' Championship, and McLaren will. I mean, Red Bull are on the verge of being overtaken by Ferrari if they keep this rate up. And so for the individual staff members, this can be thousands of dollars a year in bonuses. And, of course, these guys don't think about that. So that really, it frustrates me a little bit with that mentality and that way of working for those guys. But, let's see what happens. I'm sure Jos isn't going to dip into his pocket and cover those, and recover those bonuses. Yeah. But, hey.
F1 is all these teams and all these drivers and everything are, they're just, it's a very, very powerful, as you were to say, the teammate, the teams, and, there's a lot of personalities, a lot of type A personalities running around. And unfortunately, when ego gets involved with, dad and, his little, I don't want to say cronies, but Dad and his bunch, when that ego gets going, and that's a you put ego in the mix of these things in that type A personality environment, bad things happen. And I think like you alluded to, this is there's a lot of egos at play here at Red Bull, and it's and I hate to say it seems like it's driven over the smallest of littlest things. I mean, Red Bull's the top team in the sport right now. You turn on F1 news at night, it's not, hey, Haas, because they were in the news this week, but you don't hear racing at the top of or at the tip of the tongue every night in F1 news. It's always Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, but now it's not. Starting to change, and when those egos start getting stroked like that, and I think we're witnessing some of that power play that's going on behind the scenes, and it really is affecting the teams, especially Red Bull, from what it seems from the outside looking in, pretty profoundly.
I mean, we saw this a little bit back in 2016 to sort of 2018-19 when the turbo hybrid era first came in, and Renault, in all fairness, dropped the ball with their engine program and weren't able to keep up with the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari, especially Mercedes in those first few years. And Christian Horner especially was very, very, very vocal of criticizing Renault as a partner. Now, he does seem to forget that they won 4 driver and constructor championship doubles in a row. So they won 8 out of 8 possible world championships with the Renault engine.
Yeah.
So they've got pretty short memories there, such is the nature of the sport. Yep. But it sort of, it doesn't sit quite right with me, this one, I don't think.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I think they're just trying to fight through the rest of the season, get what they can get, and then I think once the season's over, it's going to be a silly off season in that Red Bull campus.
Oh my
for
gosh,
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Going to be a nutty one.
Yeah, we'll see. We will
speaking
see.
Of changes, here's another great segue. Open wheel to open wheel. Former NASCAR driver Hallie Deegan, this week signed with an NXT partner, so she's going to start running some Indy NXT races next year in 2025. Yep. So MDT Racing, I think is the name of it. I can't remember what team.
Could well be, actually, yeah.
Yeah. That is, I mean, Haley's a really good driver. She, her family's she comes from a long motorsports family with her dad, and her 2 brothers. They both race motocross. Obviously her dad, Brian Deegan, super huge motocross guy, freestyle guy.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty, and Haley left her Xfinity ride kind of in the middle of the season this year, just wasn't getting the performance that the team expected of her. So they parted ways, and I mean, it was, Haley understands. I mean, she came out and said, I just didn't perform the way I should. But she did. She's signing a deal with NXT next year. I can't remember the team. The name just slips my top of my head. But I think it's a good opportunity for her.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that NXT program has certainly brought through a lot of drivers into the IndyCar field, and the nice thing about it is I believe, and if Frank was here, he'd probably correct me, that they actually get a certain amount of sponsorship that they can carry into the following year's IndyCar program. So it helps them get a ride in a IndyCar program. I think it guarantees them a start in the Indy 500 as well. Which is, again, great exposure for them. And you look at some of the drivers that are coming through as well, especially, on the Hallie Deegan side with Jamie Chadwick's in there, and looking back, like Pippa Mann's come through there.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of a couple of. There's been a number of female drivers come through that program and been really, really successful.
Yep. Did Leggett? I think Leggett came through there. I think she came
Yeah,
through one of the diversity team
Catherine came
programs.
through that, and God, who was the one that partnered with Ed Carpenter? Sarah Fisher. I think she came through some of those feeder programs as well. Maybe it was before it was called NXT, but yeah, it's a great program. Obviously, Lewis Foster, who's from my neck of the woods. He won the championship last year, and he's got a drive next year in the main IndyCar series with Ray Hall Letterman. There we go.
Okay.
So that's another good boost for him, and it's that's I think in a way the NXT program probably does a better job of developing drivers than Formula 2 does now. So it's a good platform, and they produce some really good drivers there. So I'm not sure on any other IndyCar news. I've seen little bits and pieces.
I have too,
but nothing.
That was the big one for this week. Is
crazy? I don't think.
Yeah.
Before we go on to hang on. Before we go on to the Cup Series, a couple of other things I wanted to mention very, very briefly. A series that we don't really cover on this program, but is one of the greatest races in motorsport, was last weekend, the Bathurst 1000 at the Mount Panorama circuit. If you ever get a chance to watch that, go for it. Brilliant, brilliant circuit, brilliant driving. There's a famous video clip of I think it's Darrell Waltrip being driven around Mount Panorama by, I think it was Peter Brock, maybe.
Oh boy.
One of the legends of V8 supercars, and he's not particularly comfortable, should we say?
No.
But brilliant onboard footage if you ever get a chance to see it.
I think anything with Michael Waltrip is brilliant onboard footage. Like that guy.
I think it was Darrell. He was his brother.
Oh, was it Darrell? Even better. I mean,
which is even better. Yeah.
Yeah. Either one of them, and you're getting a fun
You get a chance to watch some of that on board. Really good. And a couple of other things today as well that I just wanted to touch on. Today's the anniversary of the passing of Dan Weldon in the season finale in Vegas. A very controversial event, and Dan was a fantastic driver. Missed by so many people in the paddock, but his sons are coming through, and they're under the Andretti wing, I think, which is hopefully they'll have a good career, and carry on that legacy that his father left. And one thing I noticed as well, Lee, earlier you said something that you'd alluded to. And alluded to was the catchphrase of our dear friend Gray Warren, whose birthday it was this week. Gray, we miss you massively. Tragically passed away the day after his 65th birthday. So Gray, we really miss you, and you were a great friend to all of us. And he'd love to talk NASCAR, and I think that's where we're going now, to the Roval. I can't even begin to remember what convoluted name they came up with for the race weekend this weekend, but the Roval 400 or whatever it was, down at Charlotte. And basically, as we saw at the intro of the Carl Larson show, we've had two of those in the last half dozen races. Bristol he dominated, Roval he's dominated. God, we hope he doesn't do it at Phoenix from a Toyota perspective. But wow, I mean, hats off to Carl Larson and that 5-car team. When they get it hooked up, wow, it's phenomenal. I hate to say it, but they're unbeatable. Chris Bell had some pace towards the end there, and if Chris had maybe a couple of better pit stops, he could have been on his tail. But you always felt Kyle had something in reserve, and if Chris had got within a second of him, he'd just gone, okay. Put in 3 or 4 quick laps, and you're 2.5 seconds ahead again.
Yeah.
So, it was it was pretty ominous, and I must admit, I was going to go down to the race, but unfortunately wasn't able to attend. And watching it on TV, you're like, "Oh boy, let's get this one out of your system, boys, and let's see how we go in the round of 8." But it was an elimination race. There was a number of guys on the bubble, as we call it, and it got pretty dramatic there for a little while.
And it's gotten pretty dramatic in the past couple days.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but it's really gotten.
So the regular season champion in 2311's Tyler Reddick had struggled a little bit through the playoffs, I think, in all fairness. But he's a great road racer, won multiple road races in his career, with both RCR and 2311. So I know he was reasonably confident coming into the weekend. And he great qualifying performance, P2, behind Shane van Gisbergen, who got his first Cup Series pole.
NASCAR. Yep.
The day after being eliminated from the Xfinity playoffs, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
So no, Van Gisbergen came out there. He led from the start of the race, and tactically, Van Gisbergen's obviously not in the playoffs, so he does what he needs to do to try and win the race because that's his only game he's playing, really. Yep. And he pitted before the end of stage 1, which is the strategy if you want to win the race. That allowed Tyler to win stage 1 and get the stage points there, which was, as it turned out at the end of the race, was invaluable to him.
Yeah, that extra 10 points was huge.
Oh, yeah. And then partway, I don't know if it was in the second, I think it was in the second stage. Obviously, Tyler pitted at the end of the first stage, so that would shuffle him back in the pack. And he was trying to make his way through. And then in one of what was 2 race-altering moments of inspiration from Austin Dillon, my buddy, he decided to spin at turn 7, the new turn 7 for this year. It's a little bit of an alteration to the Roval, and they put in a hairpin entry back onto the oval, and that made some really good passing opportunities. Did exactly what they intended to do. So yeah, Austin spun on the exit of turn 7. He's what's the phrase Martin Brundle comes up with in the Formula One? Ambition exceeds talent, or something. I think is his phrase that he uses. And so Austin span. Everybody stacked up, but unfortunately Tyler Reddick didn't get the memo, and slammed into the side of his car owner in Denny Hamlin. Launched the car in the air. When it landed, he'd bent his right rear track rod, which is a reasonably. They've strengthened that part a lot in the Gen 7 cars since they first got introduced, because that was a very weak link in the car for a while, but they have strengthened it. But the impact from Tyler that he gave to Denny was actually a miracle that was the only thing that was any major damage. So the 2311 guys did a great job in servicing the car, getting it fixed, getting him back on there without losing a lap. I think they pitted like 4 times under that caution to work on the car, and Billy Scott, his crew chief, played a great strategy call there. And he then got into the position where Joey Logano was his target. Tyler was slipped below the cut line, was sitting in 9th. Joey was in 8th, and you went through this spell of Tyler's catching him, got to within like 3 or 4 points, I think it was, and then Austin Dillon had another moment of well, in all fairness, it wasn't Austin, it wasn't his team.
His fault.
No, but we can blame him anyway. Had another moment of brilliance when when they exited pit lane with only 3 lug nuts on the car, and his front, I think it was front left or one of the left side tires liberated itself from the chassis, which brings out another caution and a pretty hefty fine for and suspensions for tire changes and crew chiefs and the whole 9 yards on that one. So then crew chiefs don't often get the credit they deserve, but I mentioned him a minute ago. Billy Scott there on top of that pit box, a lot of pressure on him. Regular season champion, has always made it to the round of 8, and pulled him in, pitted him, put 4 new tires on. Joey stayed out, came back. I think there was like 15 points between them. So between them, Tyler needed to gain 15 spots on Joey. Big ass with 20-something laps to go. Tyler drove a great race from that point on. Picked up 10 spots or so. Joey dropped a few. And by the time the checkered flag came out, Tyler was 4 points to the good.
Yeah, and Joey's in the trailer.
Kyle Larson, as you say, drove off into the distance, and everybody was happy, apart from the 22 guys in Penske garage. But let's not leave it there. Let's throw a little wrench into the works. Every car that makes it through to the next round of the playoffs goes through technical inspection post-race. And the 48 of Alex Bowman, who reasonably comfortably got through.
Not so much.
Yeah, decided to be underweight. And got disqualified from the race.
Yeah.
And therefore finished 36th, which elevated Joey Logano back into the playoffs.
I know.
So quite an adventurous couple of hours there post-race. So my understanding of the rules is you have a minimum weight that the car must meet, fully fueled and fully watered, oiled, any sort of lubricant or cooling agent or fuel or whatever it may be, that the car has to meet under those criteria. Now, as with every sport, you get given a percentage of error. And I think it's 0.5% in NASCAR on this, which equates to about 17 pounds. And they were still underweight. They allowed them to refuel. They allowed them to cycle the water through. They allowed them to cycle the oil through. They did everything they could to allow them to get back overweight. And they didn't. Now, the problem is, if you're an engineer and you're a designer on these cars, and somebody says, if 17 pounds is 0.5%, that makes the car 3,400 pounds. So I'd already worked that out before the show. I didn't just do that in my head that quickly. So, 3,400 pounds is your limit. But they turn around and say, well, you get 0.5%. So they know 17 pounds. So that takes it down to 33.83. That's the weight you're going to design the car to.
Yeah,
you're not going to design it to 3,400. You're going to design it to your 34. Or 33.83. Now you've got no leeway. So a nut falls off that car, and in theory you could have been underweight. Now it's going to be a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
and we've seen it in the past. Cars suffer from accident damage, and as long as it is quantifiable, and you can say, hey, look, in an impact here, we lost this bit of bodywork, or we lost this bit of frame or whatever, or this foam, foam coming out of the sides is not uncommon in some of these big wrecks. You can justify it. And, NASCAR are reasonably okay with this. I had that when I was working for RCR, we had a similar issue. We came back underweight, but we had some impact damage, and we prove that that's where the additional weight went. Now, given Hendrick didn't appeal the penalty, I don't think that's the case here. I think either they knew what they were doing and got caught, which is kind of surprising they wouldn't have, the car's going to be weighed, so why do it? Or it was a mistake, a genuine mistake. These cars run a lot of ballast, typically tungsten ballast due to its density. And it could well be that they got the car back. They'll mount them in boxes around the car. And they could well have got the car back, open the box up and go, oh shit, we're missing a piece of tungsten here, guys. fair cop. Honest mistake, it happens. I've seen it happen. It's a human sport. It relies on a number of people to do their job correctly, and 99 times out of 100 they'll do it. Maybe, and this is no inside knowledge, this is nothing, I'm not casting aspersions about anybody here. Maybe somebody just forgot to put misread a note from the car chief, put the wrong amount in, and so you got to, that is the case. That guy will be devastated.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. And
everybody, every mechanic and everybody on that team that's got hands on the car, the physical car leading up to this thing, they went to bed Sunday night just like, oh God, was it me? Like, what?
Exactly.
I mean, like, I've been a mechanic since I was 8 years old. I spent half of my adult life as a mechanic. And boy, howdy, when something goes wrong, no matter how small or how big it is, you're always like, did I do that?
It's a galling feeling. Oh,
yeah.
It's the worst thing in the world.
Yep. If you find out that
and thankfully none of the mistakes that I've made have ever ended in quite a similar result. But I've been to tests where I'd screwed things up and things haven't worked on the car when they're meant to, and it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And all you can do is learn from it and move on and grow, because it is the epitome of a team sport. Now, as I say, may not be the case here, but who knows? Yeah. So
if they're not appealing it, they know that. And I do not think Hendrick Motorsports is the type of team to bet. I mean, everybody bends the rules, but they know that if we bend the rule and we do good, we know we're going to go to post-race inspection and we're going to get weighed. So they know the risks, and it's like, I'm pretty sure they're smart enough to say, no, we're going to bend it, but we're not going to do that, So, yeah.
You remember the in-car camera from Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus?
I do.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that was a different era.
That
was a different era in motorsports.
we have our field of 8 set for the next 3 races: Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville. We have, off the top of my head, Kyle Larson, Chris Bell, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and William Byron. Very good, thank you.
Because there's 300 cars.
300.
There was 4 until the 48 fiasco, and that dropped it down to 300 cars.
Yep.
And so we know that the 5 car, the 24, and then Chase. So yeah.
Yeah,
they've
I think you look at that field, and you've probably got. I'd like to think that you're going to see, unless there's anything crazy happens, Larson's pretty much locked in. I think Chris Bell looks pretty good. He's got some strong tracks coming up. Vegas, Vegas and Homestead especially, pretty strong tracks for Chris. Again, potentially strong tracks for Denny Hamlin as well.
Really good in Vegas in the past. He's
he's won at Martinsville before.
Yep.
So you'd think, I think you're definitely going to see Larson and Chris Bell in the final 4.
Definitely.
I think both Blaney and Logano haven't exactly dug up any trees in the playoffs so far. Obviously Logano got that win early in the playoffs, but it wasn't. You're still not 100% convinced by it. So you'd maybe put those 2 guys on the way out, and then you've got your 2 Toyotas and 2 GM cars there. You're fighting for those last 2 spots, so it's going to be an interesting few weeks. I'm going to be down in Homestead for the race. We've got a wet weather test at Homestead the following day, so I'm going to be down there, lending my support and making sure all of our cars are at weight.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking here, no Fords in the final 8. this year?
Yeah, well, you got the two Penske cars of Blaney and Logano.
Yeah, Blaney and Logano. So
yeah,
okay. Because I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think, and you're right. Yeah. So we got those two. So that we got all three in there.
Yeah. So everybody's represented, and we'll see where we go. It's obviously the playoff format, anything can happen. But I think it's reasonably well structured right now, and I think two of the guys are pretty safe. And we'll see where the other two come from. But it's going to be getting to the business end of the season, as they say, and we'll see where we end.
Kyle Larson's definitely on cruise control from here on. At least for the next couple races. That team is on fire. They're just, they're firing on all cylinders, right time. Like every team has its ups and downs. There's that ebb and flow.
Especially throughout a 36 race season, you're going to have some good races and bad races, and that's the secret to it. Throughout the regular season, make sure your bad races aren't too bad, and then come the end of the season, make sure you got that Phoenix, car spot on. I think Chris Bell actually won Phoenix earlier in the year, so that's a good omen for us, anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris Bell he's doing right. He's put himself in position where he's definitely knocking on the door, and I think he's going to be a contention to win this for sure. Because you said it's the playoffs, one little bobble. He lays back on the lazy boy a little too long and takes a nap, and next thing you know,
and I must admit, I don't think I'd like to think that Rick Hendrick doesn't allow his boys to do that too much. So, so Chris did win Phoenix earlier in the year, so that's laid down a good marker. So we'll see how that one plays out for us. No other major NASCAR news at the moment that we have any. Couple of little stories lurking in the background, but I don't think we know enough about those to talk about those just yet. But watch this space. I'm sure I'm sure everybody knows what we're talking about if they follow the series closely.
Yeah.
But let's. I think we're coming back to the end of our time now. We've survived.
Yeah, we did it
without Frank.
I think we've done this 3 times this year, and we've made it through.
I know. Well, good job. We've got a little bit of practice because I think Frank's going to be struggling. Frank's certainly out for the next couple of weeks with his chicken Big Mac hunt. Yeah. So we'll wish him well on that. And we'll like to thank Keith Hayes, our producer at Sinista1 Productions. I think it's that, isn't it? Yeah, there
he's
we
the
go.
best.
Oh, good. Checks in the mail, don't worry. And actually, it's supposed to be the other way around, isn't it? The you owe me's in the mail. That's it. And so we wish everybody a safe, happy weekend and enjoy the races this weekend, the Cup Series and Formula One. I think they probably clash timing-wise actually this weekend.
Yeah.
Both middle West Coast races in Vegas and Texas. So hopefully we'll be able to get that. And of course we've got Sunday football as well. So geez, the DVRs are going to be working overtime this weekend. Unless you're a Cowboys fan and you're just going to turn the damn thing off, aren't you? So have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll catch you all later.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinista1 production.